So what I mean by that is they get energy without oxygen. And that's the
Mhm.
common phenotype characteristic of all cancer cells. They can't grow without using fermentation, which is a non energy making energy ATP synthesis without oxygen. That's one of the
Mhm.
unique characteristics of cancer. Found one that we have. I have $100 bill in my pocket, and I've been asking my students for the last 5 years, show me a cancer cell that can grow without fermentation. And so far, we have not yet found one. And I'll offer it to any one of your listeners. I'll be happy to relinquish a $100 bill if anybody, and that includes prostate cancer. Those
Mhm.
cancer cells cannot grow without the fermentation of glucose and glutamine, period. And I had some oncologists, some of my friends actually, who told me, I don't believe it, prostate cancer is different from other cancers. And I said, I have some clear studies here showing that the mitochondria in prostate cancer is abnormal structurally. And in evolutionary biology, we know structure determines function. And we know prostate cancers can't live without certain fermentable fuels. And he says, I don't think that's true. So my colleague, George Yu, is an oncologist in prostate cancer. He says, I have cancer patients coming into my clinic all the time. I says, George, take some tissue from them because he works with colleagues at Johns Hopkins. And I said, why don't you turn it over to because you can't see mitochondria without an electron microscopy. So you have to have an electron microscopy suite to really see what a mitochondria looks like in a prostate
Mhm.
or any cancer for that matter. So I had done a big dive on this, and I took years to go through all the electron microscopy work, because when that was hot in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of these guys were not asking fundamental questions. They were just looking at structural stuff. And I saw all these electron microscopy of all these different cancers with abnormalities in the number structure, and even functional assays were abnormal. And I looked at prostate cancer too. And I had a couple of papers there from prostate cancer. George said, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Oh, what the hell? I've looked at the, oh, no, they didn't do it right. So I said, okay. So he sends his prostate cancer tissue to Johns Hopkins, and they come back with some beautiful, beautiful slides showing abnormal mitochondria in the prostate cancer. And then he said, nah, okay, now I believe you. you have to see the evidence. And not only that, we saw lipid droplet accumulation. All major cancers have lipid drop accumulation in the cytoplasm because the mitochondria are defective and they can't use lipids. And we saw the same thing in the prostate cancer. They can't use lipids, so they store them as lipid droplets in the cytoplasm. This is
Mm.
exactly what you'd expect. Finally, he says, okay, it's like, I've seen it. I believe it now because I have seen it on my own patient's tissue. Now he says, okay, now I agree.